Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Let's go over the FireKeepers Casino 400 at Michigan International Speedway on Saturday. Yes, Saturday, August 8th at 4 p.m. Eastern. This is race 1 of 2 for the doubleheader this weekend at Michigan. So keep in mind when watching this video, we are only talking about the Saturday race, and we will be talking about the Sunday race in a separate video and a separate live stream. So double the content this weekend. So busy for me, but there's a lot to look forward to, and I hope you guys do enjoy it. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like. I know it's something as small as just leaving a like on a video, but it really does help me out. The more you guys interact with my content, leaving comments, leaving likes, the more it's going to help me out on the YouTube algo, and it's going to recommend my video to more people. And the more people that watch my videos, the more it helps me out. So I do appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel, you might as well hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be here all season long trying to help you guys become better NASCAR DFS players. And this is a very long season. We go until November. We go from February to November. So I'm going to be here for a long time. So if you're going to keep coming back to the channel each and every single day or each and every single week, you might as well hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I post new content, especially when I go live, because you guys don't want to miss that as well. It's always a fun time. Yeah, I think that's... Well, I guess I should probably plug the social media. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at ChrisPennell16. I'm at CPenn16 on IG. And most importantly, if you want to support my content over on Patreon, it's always much appreciated. We have over 300 people in there, over plenty of people in the Discord. So if you're interested, links in the description below. I do my projections, my GPP exposure, so you know exactly where my money's going. I can't be more transparent than that, guys. In the Discord, where you can bug me all day if you want. And then the power rankings, the green flag speed, all that fun stuff, all the extra data that I have on here, it is posted in color code format. So if you're interested, links in the description below. If you're not, that's fine. Let's just dive into today's slate. So we're going to start off with the preview, as always. But first, as always, I forgot to mention when the live stream is going to be. So the race is at around 4 p.m. on Saturday. So I'm thinking the live stream can be anywhere from 12 to 2 p.m. I'll try to figure that out, and I will keep you guys posted. I'll tweet it out on Twitter and also have it posted on YouTube, hopefully by tonight, so you guys know what time to be ready. So it could be at 12 p.m., it could be at 1, it could be at 2. I'm not sure. It can't be at 3 because I need that time, an hour before lock, just to get things ready, just in case I need to update things. So anywhere from 12 to 2. If you guys have a preference, you can let me know in the comments below, and then maybe whatever you guys prefer the most, I'll do that. I could run a poll on Twitter, but expect it around that time. But anyway, this is the FireKeepers Casino 400. There's your outline of the track. This is Michigan International Speedway. It's a large D-shaped oval. It's a 2-mile track. We only have one other 2-mile track on the series, and that would be Auto Club, but that's a high tire wear track. So it is comparable, but it's also a little bit different as well. You can also look at tracks like Kentucky, Kansas. Those, just the 1.5-mile tracks. They kind of fit in the same category. They're not the exact same, but they're deemed a large oval, so that's kind of the similar tracks we're looking at. And we only have 156 laps. Usually this is around 200 laps, so we have less Dominator points available than we usually would, only 117, which means Dominator points aren't that important this week. It's kind of more gauged, or we're kind of going to be swaying more towards finishing position and place differential for the most part. Obviously, if you miss the main Dominator, you're not going to win the tournament because there's always going to be a main Dominator for the most part. Some races, it can be really spread out, but for the most part, we're going to need to nail a main Dominator. So I think you can make anywhere from 1 to 3 Dominator lineups this week. If you're playing one Dominator, just different scenarios. You could be playing Joey Logano on the pole and then just going straight place differential after that if you think he leads a lot of laps. Or you could go 2 Dominators, a guy like Joey Logano, and just throwing in random name out there, Kyle Busch, then you could do a 2 Dominator lineup. And if you're making 3 Dominators, I think you're pushing it because that just does not seem that optimal with 117. But you could go like 3 cheaper Dominators like Bowman, Omarola, and Chase Elliott. They're all pretty cheap, so that could work. And they also all have high finishing potential as well. So if you want to get a little bit different, I think you could go that route because I don't think people are going to try to jam in 3 Dominators. But it might make sense just to be different. But you're going to be sitting in 1 to 3 Dominator lineups this week. I think most of my lineups will probably end up having 2, and really it's just kind of, I'm pretty much playing as many people as possible that I think can finish high, and I think that's what you're pretty much doing most weeks. But only 156 laps, kind of like Pocono, where we had the doubleheader at Pocono, where the races are shorter than usual. I believe this race is only around 300 miles, so not too long of a race. So that's pretty much it for the preview. Nothing too out of the ordinary, and there's the outline of the track if I didn't mention that already. So yeah, I think we can go to the driver by driver breakdown at this point. And as always, guys, this is usually just my first rundown through the entire slate. So we're going through it together, and you guys are getting my first initial uncut raw reactions on it. So up top, we have Kevin Harvick. He's 11,000. He is starting third, and I mean, it's cut and dry with Harvick. He's always going to be an elite play pretty much everywhere we go. It's just a matter of, do you think he's going to dominate? Because at 11,000, he's going to have to dominate. And the thing is, there's not many laps to be had. And the guys right in front of him are Joey Logano and, I almost said Kevin Harvick. He's Kevin Harvick. Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin. And that's not two easy guys to pass. And Joey Logano, when he's had the pole at Michigan, it's been kind of like GG for the field because he's been very, very good at Michigan, starting on the pole. But Kevin Harvick, he's obviously going to be a threat to win. He's one of the favorites in Vegas. I would assume he's actually the favorite in Vegas. I have not checked that yet, but it seems like every single week it's Kevin Harvick, and then it's Denny Hamlin, and then it's a mixture of Busch, Truex, and Keselowski, and Logano, those kind of guys. So I'd assume he is going to be the favorite to win again, and he's been great at Michigan. He's won 2 of the past 6 races here, average finish of 6.3, averaging nearly 60 DraftKings points per race, which is second best. Now keep in mind, some of these guys' numbers are going to be lower, but Kyle Larson, obviously, he was pretty good at Michigan, and obviously he's not going to be here, so that's a large chunk of points missing. So that's also an opportunity for another driver to step up and lead a lot of laps, or just perform better, which obviously we'll have guys that fill in the void. But anyway, Kevin Harvick, if you're looking at this season's 2020 large oval tracks, I mean, if we could look at the track time for the last 10 races, but it's pretty much the same thing as the 2020. I mean, we have a couple of 2019 races mixed in, so I just think it makes more sense just to look at the 2020 performance. But for really large ovals, Kevin Harvick's been absolutely elite. 10 top 10s the past 10 races. And if we're looking at 2020 specifically, which is what I'm going to want to do, because I don't want to go over 3 categories, because we'll be here for ever, all day. I don't know if some of you might like that, but I don't want to be here all day and sitting here. But anyway, he's averaging 55 DraftKings points per race. That's second best, right behind Ryan Blaney. He has 4 top 5s, has a win, averaging the most laps led per race. Not the most fast laps, but he's just been overall solid this season. He's 3rd in average green flag speed at these track types, 1st overall this season, 1st since the NASCAR restart May 17th at Darlington. Yes, he's an elite play, but also, he's starting 3rd, 11,000. If he doesn't lead a good chunk of laps and finish strong, which I think he's going to finish strong, but if he doesn't lead a good chunk of laps, I'm not sure how optimal he's going to be, because look, we got cheaper dominators like Joey Logano, he's 9,700. Christopher Bell, he's starting 30th, and we know he has top 10 potential. He looked great last week at New Hampshire until he spun out 2 times at the end of the race, which killed me, because I had my best lineup had Christopher Bell, and I actually had a chance to win, because I was in first place the first time where he had to go to the back, and then my lineup was moving back up when he was in 15th. I think I was like in 7th place or something like that. Then he spins again, and I'm like, well, shoot, there goes my chance for a takedown, because that was my best lineup. But got a little off topic there. But Kevin Harvick, he's an excellent play. It's just, can you fit him in? Do you think he's going to dominate? Because starting 3rd, he's got to get past Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin. That's no easy task. Hamlin's been excellent this season. Hamlin and Kevin Harvick have been the 2 top dogs for the most part. They've just been taking turns winning races, it seems like. They're the 2 favorites in Vegas to win the championship. So I wouldn't say Kevin Harvick's just some easy lock-in play, because he does have guys he has to get past, and if he gets a top 3 but doesn't lead many laps at all, if he leads like 5 laps, you're probably not looking at an optimal driver. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna be playing Kevin Harvick because he's great at Michigan, and if I had to pick who's gonna win the race and lead the most laps, I would say Kevin Harvick's pretty much at the top of that list. Most laps, maybe because Joey Logano, maybe not because Joey Logano's on the pole, but Kevin Harvick is an awesome play. It's just a matter of, if you're building one lineup, I don't know if I'd have him on my lineup, to be honest. I play 150, so obviously I'm going to have a good amount of exposure to Kevin Harvick because I have the opportunity to with 150. But if I'm building one, not really sure if he would make it, because Truex is 10,800. He's starting 12th, and he offers us PD upside. And with there only being 156 laps, I would view Truex as a safer play. Same goes with Ryan Blaney. So I feel like I'd be more inclined to have more Truex and Blaney just because feel a little bit safer with them, and I think they have similar upside to Kevin Harvick. And Truex, he's been great at Michigan. He's made 3 out of the past 6 optimal lineups here. He's averaging the most DraftKings points per race at 60. He has 3 top 5s, hasn't won here recently, but same amount of laps led as Kevin Harvick and about the same amount of fast laps, and he's also starting, 9 spots further back. It's quick math in my head I don't want to do. So I think he's a safer play, and he's got potential to win this race. If you're looking at the 2020 similar tracks this season, pretty much similar numbers. He doesn't have a win, but he's averaging nearly the same DraftKings points per race. No wins, but 3 top 5s, 30.2 laps led per race, 24.6 fast laps. And if you're looking at similar tracks this season, Truex ranks 5th, but keep in mind in green flag speed. But if you take away the Texas race where his car turned into, looked like tomato, whatever, you know what I'm talking about, from the Cars movie. That's what his car looked like after his wreck. But he stayed on the track, and he just chugged along. He was like in 30th place, but he chugged along. But that absolutely murdered him in the green flag speed department. He was ranked in the 30s. So if we remove the Texas race, which I guess is not fair because other drivers have had incidents too, but let's just cheat and take that away, he would be second right behind Ryan Blaney. So he's been amazing at these tracks, and he's a good performer at Auto Club, which is another 2-mile track. So I think Martin Truex is an excellent play this week. And starting 12th, definitely someone to have a lot of exposure to. And I do view him as a safer play as Harvick because we have similar upside. And I don't think Harvick is going to lead the laps early on. I do think it's going to be Joey Logano or Denny Hamlin. It could be Harvick because, look, if he comes out with a rocket and just passes Logano and them early on, yeah, it could be a long day for the field because if Kevin Harvick keeps that lead and gets it early, he could lead like 100-plus laps easily. So keep that in mind. But if Harvick does not lead laps early on, I think Truex makes his way to probably right beside Kevin Harvick at that point. And then it's just 50-50 who takes the lead if one of them overtakes a guy like Logano or Hamlin. And if it's Truex, he had more place differential, so I think he could end up being a better play. So I definitely like Truex. I think he's an excellent play and certainly on my radar. Then at 10,600, we have Ryan Blaney, and I wasn't on him last week, and it looked like a mistake at first because I think he had the lead at one point, or at least close to it. And I was like, oh, Ryan Blaney's going to lead a bunch of laps today. Ended up not happening, and he was not that fast. I think he was 20th in average green flag speed. It didn't look that good. His car wasn't handling that well. But starting 11th, we're at a track where so far this season, he has been blazing fast. At the large ovals, he is first in average green flag speed, and it's pretty much by a wide margin. And the tire combinations this week are similar to Texas, Kansas, and Kentucky. And if you're looking at those tracks, Ryan Blaney has been just blazing fast. He was first in the green flag speed at Kentucky and first in average green flag speed at Texas as well. So he had plenty of speed, and he's just been great at the 1.5s this year. So if you're looking at those, we can look at the recent track history, but I'm kind of more concerned of how they ran at large ovals so far this season. Yeah, we can throw in some recent track history, but I'm kind of concerned about the 2020 statistics. And if you're looking at that for Ryan Blaney, amazing. Averaging the most DraftKings points per race at 62.1, average running position of 5.5, drive rating of 113.8. Those are all the best. I mean, best driver rating, best average running position, most DraftKings points. No wins, but honestly, he got screwed out of a couple, and he has 4 top 5s, which is tied for the most with Busch, Elliott, Denny Hamlin, and Kevin Harvick. And it's kind of I've kind of felt weird to say Kyle Busch 4 top 5s at large ovals this season, which is tied for the most. But, oh, Kyle Busch, man, I'll have something to say about him when we get to it. Man, that sucked last week. But yeah, Ryan Blaney's an excellent play. Averaging the most fast laps per race at 29.4, second most laps led at 36.7, or actually third most, right behind Alex Bowman. But yeah, Ryan Blaney's an excellent play. Starting 11th, he's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. Him and Martin Truex Jr., if you want to make those your 2 top dogs in your lineup and just lock up place differential, I have no issue with that whatsoever. You're just going to have to hope that Logano doesn't lead 100-plus laps, because if he does, he'll easily be a better play than Blaney or Truex. But you might be able to fit all 3, and I've not tried to build lineups yet. If that's doable, I mean, certainly I would go for it. 9,700, 10,000. It might be pushing it, but if you can, I don't hate that strategy. Lock up the early dominator points and then getting 2 guys that have the potential to lead laps, win the race, and gain about 10 spots. So definitely like Ryan Blaney, and you guys know I'm going to recommend Ryan Blaney anytime I can. So he's one of my favorite plays on this slate. He's just been so fast this season at these track types. And at Auto Club this season, he was one of the best cars. Him and Alex Bowman were the 2 top dogs by far. Although I think that was the race Ryan Blaney ended up having a tire issue at the very end, because I had a ton of Bowman, I had a ton of Ryan Blaney, and I was already counting my money. I thought it was going to be an excellent day. And then I believe with a couple of laps left, Ryan Blaney had a pit due to a tire issue, if I remember correctly. So keep that in mind. I'm pretty sure that was the race, because I was not happy at all. Because I nailed the 2 dominators, I nailed the 2 fastest cars, and then what do you know, Ryan Blaney, a couple laps left, he's got to come down pit road. And I think that was the same race that Austin Dillon was running really well, and he started 30th. And then he had to go down pit road for a similar issue. So I was all the way up here. I was like, count my money, gonna have a good dinner tonight, to all the way down here, and it was just not a good day at the end. But that's how it goes in NASCAR sometimes. You can be high flying one lap and then all the way down next lap. So moving on, we have Denny Hamlin, 10,400. He's starting second, and he's obviously going to be a threat to win this race and lead a lot of laps. If Logano doesn't lead a lot of laps early, it's more than likely going to be from Denny Hamlin or Kevin Harvick, but Denny Hamlin's also on the front row, so he has a better jump on not the restart, but the start of the race. it could be a long day for the field because Denny Hamlin has just been absolutely excellent this season. He was great last week at New Hampshire. Now we can't really use New Hampshire whatsoever because it's a different package and it's a much different track. So not really using New Hampshire as a basis, but he's been good so far this season pretty much everywhere. He's been one of the best cars. Him and Kevin Harvick have just been really the two top dogs for the most part. Even when if they're not doing well early on, it seems like at the end of the race, you always see Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick just battling it out at some point because, I don't know, they've nailed the setups this year. They got the best cars. They got the fastest cars for the most part. And I see no reason why that would change again. So I think we have to have Denny Hamlin exposure. Do I think Logano is more likely to lead laps than Denny Hamlin? Yes, but look, we don't have any practice data to work on or to look off of. So you're kind of just... My strategy is kind of just in spreading out the dominators for the most part because we don't really know which one's going to have the top end speed for the most part. For the place differential, that's easier to nail. Like Erik Jones starting 23rd, yeah, it's an easy PD play. Ricky Stenhouse 32, yeah, easy PD play. That's easy to find out. The guys up top, we can use green flag speed, which I would expect Blaney to have a ton of speed, Truex to carry a ton of speed, but we've seen these guys just completely miss the setup. When we had Kevin Harvick in the pool at Kansas, he didn't lead a lap. I mean, that can happen. So the same thing can happen to Joey Logano, and if that happens, Denny Hamlin, he's right in position to lead a lot of laps in this race, and it's been a good track for him. He has 2 top 5s the past 6 races here, averaging 40 DraftKings points per race. If you're looking at his numbers at large ovals this season, Hamlin, he's got excellent numbers, nearly 50 DraftKings points per race, 2 wins, which is the most out of all these drivers, 4 top 5s, a lot of laps led, a lot of fast laps. Yeah, Hamlin is a good play. I think he'll be lower on the Joey Logano because he's starting second. People don't like playing the guy starting second a lot of times. Now, they did last week because Almirola was on the pool and Hamlin was starting second, and that's kind of just like, yeah, Denny Hamlin's going to get Almirola at some point. But and he's just been so good at New Hampshire. But yeah, Hamlin's an excellent option. I do think he'll be lower on the Joey Logano, so if you want to be more tournament-y, I don't mind going overweight on Hamlin, and maybe you could go underweight on Logano. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with Joey Logano yet. I'm obviously playing him, but we'll see what I end up with. But Brad Keselowski, 10,100 to end this 5-digit tier. And I said last week, I'm not too interested in Brad Keselowski, but he always finds a way to get up front at some point of the race. So I'm going to be playing Keselowski, and what do you know? He comes out and takes the lead early on from Almirola out of nowhere. People really weren't on Keselowski. He was only 15% owned, and thankfully I had about 15 to 16% ownership. So felt good about it until until Kyle Busch just wrecked and ruined everything. It was looking pretty good. Most of my people did very, very well in New Hampshire, besides Kyle Busch. But the problem was I had 50% Kyle Busch, so that really put a damper on things. But yeah, Keselowski, he's always a guy that just somehow finds his way up front. So he's not someone you can fade. You should usually always have around 10 to 20% Brad Keselowski because that's pretty much the chances of him getting up front at some point. He just comes out of nowhere. He'll take a gamble on pit road. And this is his home track, so keep that in mind. He's averaging 43 DraftKings points per race here, running position of 8.1. But he's just been so consistent this season. If you're looking at his numbers, he's got 9 top 10s and 9 tries at these types of tracks. 9 top 10s. He's the only driver that's done that. Kevin Harvick's at 8, but Keselowski's just been so consistent this season. Best average finish of 6.6, running position of 10.10. He just always finds a way at the end. He's just one of those guys. He's got a golden horseshoe. Just things will usually work out for him. So I definitely like Brad Keselowski as a tournament option. I think he'll be lower owned. Probably going to be anywhere from 10 to 20%. Once again, he might just gain some ownership because of what he did last week. And if people are just looking at game logs, they're going to be like, oh, Keselowski scored 100 some points. Yeah, I got to play him. So that could boost his ownership a little bit, but he's fine. I mean, I'm not going to go overboard on Keselowski, but I definitely think he's worth 15, 20% exposure. The usual Keselowski exposure in most races. So he's certainly in play. Then dropping down to Christopher Bell. He's 9,900, starting 29th, and he was running really, really good at New Hampshire last week. And I know it means nothing at this track, but man, his finish was not as good as he was running. He got up front quick. And also, big news for Christopher Bell. Erik Jones is not going to be returning to JGR, and Bell is going to take over the 20 car for him. So I'm not sure what that really means for Bell this race. I don't know if he's going to be driving pumped up, or I don't know. It doesn't really change anything. With that news, I do like Erik Jones because I think that's a big motivator for him. But Bell's fine starting 29th, and this is a track that doesn't have as many Dominator points available. So I think that makes Christopher Bell more valuable because at tracks when there's 300, 500 laps, guys starting in the back aren't as important as the guys up front that could lead 100, 200 laps in just a blink of an eye. But with only 156 laps, I think Bell ends up being a pretty good play here starting 29th. They also dropped his price below 10K. So I definitely want some Christopher Bell exposure because the guy's got top 10 potential. If you're looking at his numbers this season at these types of tracks, he's got 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, and Average finish of 19.9, but he's got top 15 potential here, and I do like Christopher Bell. I usually don't like Christopher Bell much. I liked him last week, which looked great, and he obviously spun out, but that can happen. But I think he's a good play this week with the lack of Dominator points available. So if you want to make a 1 Dominator lineup and use Bell as your second spend up, I think that's totally fine to get that. Say you play Logano, you lock up those early Dominator points, and then you play Christopher Bell. I think that's a safe-ish way to go. And you can still play 2 Dominators and lock in Christopher Bell. Like Logano and a Chase Elliott won't kill you, and then you can throw in Bell. I don't think that's too much of a hamper on your lineup. So Christopher Bell, I think he's a fine option, starting 29th at 9,900. Then going down to Joey Logano, 9,700. I think this is the most interesting place to look at this week because he is on the pole, and he's had a lot of success here at the pole at Michigan. It's been a very good track for him, and if you're looking at his numbers, averaging 40 DraftKings points per race with a win, 2 top 5s, averaging 36 laps led per race, which I believe is the most out of all drivers. Not a lot of fast laps, though, and if you're looking at his race, where he led nearly the whole entire race, he barely had any fast laps, which is pretty weird, but clean air, man. Clean air, that's important. It's the name of the game. You don't even have to be the fastest car. You just have to be in the best position on the track. And if you're looking at his numbers this season at the large ovals, he's got a win, 2 top 5s, a lot of laps led. Not as many fast laps, so he hasn't been the fastest car out there, but he's one of the top 5 drivers in average green flag speed in most categories. So starting in the pole, yes, you should have some interest. He's 9,700, so he's not that expensive. And if he leads a lot of laps, he's going to be optimal. The thing is, we don't know what's going to happen after the competition caution. Is he going to regain the lead? Is he going to, I don't know, anything can happen. Because we've seen guys stay out. We've seen guys come in, take 4 tires. Other guys take 2. Some guys just stay out. So, I don't know. He could get shuffled out. And if he gets shuffled out early, I don't think he's going to make his way back to the front. So, that's the risk you're playing. But, you could take a stance and go underweight and play guys that are starting further back that get up front. Or you could take the stance where, hey, Joey Logano's on the pole. He's had success at the pole here. I think he's going to lead 100-plus laps. You could do that too. I might just end up going even on the field because he's got Hamlin right beside him. He's got Kevin Harvick right there, and you got Keselowski. You got even Erik Almirola, which you can't count Almirola this season. You got Elliott, Busch. There's a lot of good drivers there, but he's got the clean air working for him, and that could certainly work in his favor for sure. So Logano, I do like him. It's just he's an interesting case on the pole for sure. Because we've seen pole setters this year not lead a lap. Like Kevin Harvick, we thought he was just a stone cold lock to lead 100 laps that race. Didn't lead a lap, and Joey Logano beat him out. So we'll see. The pole setter is always not a lock just to lead a bunch of laps, and especially with a guy like Hamlin right beside him. Then dropping down to Kyle Busch. Oh, Kyle, 9,500. No, bad memories. I still have PTSD from last week with Kyle Busch. Man, I'm sure you guys are not happy with him either. He just absolutely crushed a lot of lineups last week. And if he wouldn't have wrecked, man, my lineups were looking good because I had a lot of good drivers. My highest owned driver was Martin Truex Jr. I had a ton of Denny Hamlin. My 3 highest owned drivers were Truex, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. I like the JGR cars a lot. And Truex worked out. He made the optimal. Denny Hamlin obviously made the optimal. And had a good amount of Keselowski, and had a lot of Stenhouse, but Kyle Busch, man, 50% of Kyle Busch. He was fast, too. He was first in average green flag speed. Now, that is skewed because he barely ran any laps, but he was fast when he was on the track, and, man, he blew a tire and wrecked. That pedigree paint scheme every single time, man. But starting 7th, I think he's interesting. The last time we were at a large oval at Kansas, he was 5th in average green flag speed, and he was good. He led a lot of laps, and I had 1% Kyle Busch that day, so I was not very happy about it. But he was good the last time we were at a large oval, and earlier this season at Auto Club, he finished 2nd. I know that's a high tire track, but it's a 2-mile track, and he did finish 2nd there, and I think he's interesting. And I also forgot to mention, because I just looked at the sheet, Joey Logano was 1st in average green flag speed at Kansas, and he was also 4th at Kentucky, so he's been fast at these similar track types this season. But Kyle Busch, he's actually 5th in average green flag speed this season. This has been a good track for him. It's been pretty much a good track for him everywhere we go, so you can't really put too much stock into this because, if you're just looking at the stat sheet, you're going to be like, oh, Kyle Busch, I got to play Kyle Busch, which, trust me, I've fallen into that trap before. I got to admit that, but he was looking like a good play last week. But, man, the wreck. But that's just something we should expect with Kyle Busch at this point because he is just – bad things seem to happen to this guy. Even bad things happened at Kansas. Didn't he cut a tire at the end of the race? So the guys just can't catch a break. But if you're looking at his numbers this season at these types of tracks, 40 DraftKings points per race, not terrible. Average running position of 10.9, 96.3 driver rating. And surprisingly, he's tied for the most top 5s with 4. It's tied with Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, and Kevin Harvick. So he's been there most races at these types of tracks. He just hasn't really led laps. Only 9 laps led per race, 11.8 fast laps. But he's certainly playable. I'm not going to be fading Kyle Busch. I like what we saw last time we were at a similar track type at Kansas. I keep getting Kentucky and Kansas mixed up because they would start with a K and they weren't too long ago. But I think Kyle Busch is worthy of tournament plays. I know I posted that tweet on Twitter. I will not roster Kyle Busch, but I'm going to let him hurt me again. I'm ready. I think my body's ready for him to hurt me once again. It's been a week. So, the process with Kyle Busch is on Sundays, you hate him. And you're like, I'm never playing Kyle Busch again. Then Monday, you're like, I still hate Kyle Busch. On Tuesday, you're warming up to him a little bit. You're looking at some stats, and you're like, okay, I still hate you, but we'll see. Then by Wednesday, you're like, well, maybe if he draws a good spot in the draw. Then on Thursday, when you see a spot in the draw, you're like, well, maybe. Then you're like, then you see his price tag on Thursday night, Friday morning, and you're like, I don't know, I'm drawing back in. Then by Saturday, you talked yourself into it. Then Sunday, you end up having 30% Kyle Busch, and you thought you were going to have 0, and that's just usually how it goes. And then he wrecks out of the race, and you're sad. But I'm willing to let it happen to me again. So I like Kyle Busch in tournaments. I apologize in advance. Chase Elliott, 9,300. He is starting 8th, and this guy's just lost a lot of speed recently. Like, he has just not been performing very well whatsoever. But this has been a good track for him. He's finished in the top 10 5 out of the past 6 races here. Only one top 5, really hasn't been a lap leader, but I think he's fine. He's been really fast with these types of tracks this season. He's second in average green flag speed, right behind Ryan Blaney. If you're looking at the 2020 statistics, if I stop bringing up the calculator in my laptop, he's averaging nearly 50 DraftKings points per race. He has 4 top 5s, has a win, 21 laps led per race, some of the most fast laps at 20.6. I think he's fine. He's starting 8th, 9,300. Seems a bit too cheap for me, so I'll definitely be having some Chase Elliott exposure, and he makes it really easy to fit in multi-dominator lineups because at 9,300 Chase Elliott, I like that quite a bit, and you can also look at Kyle Busch at 9,500 just to throw those two in, and maybe you could play in Logano as well. I don't think that's going to kill you salary-wise because they're all below 10K, so I don't even hate that strategy either. So I do like Chase Elliott. And then we have Erik Almirola, 9,100, who he had a terrible draw this week. He's starting all the way back and forth. He's not in the front row this time. I don't know if Smithfield ran out of money to throw at them for the random draw or what, but 9,100, he's getting to the price point where it's like, I don't really want to play you anymore because I liked him in that 7 to 8K range. At 9,100, you're pushing it. But the thing is, since people were probably going to have the same thought process, they were probably going to end up fading him, and then he's going to just somehow pass Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, and Denny Hamlin and lead a bunch of laps early. So I think he's worthy of a sprinkle. But at 9,100, I think you're pushing that price tag quite a bit. He hasn't been great at Michigan. He has a top 10, but for the most part, it's not like he's been awesome. If you're looking at track types this season, he's been good, obviously. 40 DraftKings points per race, running position of 12.8, has 1 top 5, 5 top 10s. But man, Chase Elliott's starting 8th. He's 200 more. I'd just rather play Chase Elliott, to be honest. I'd rather play Erik Jones. I'm going to sprinkle in Almirola just in case he goes Erik Almirola on us and leads 100 laps and just happens to just continue his trend of just being great. I mean, he's got 8 top 20s at these types of tracks this season, 5 top 10s, so he's definitely worthy of a play. It's just I'm not going to have much at all of Erik Almirola. But Erik Jones, 8,800 starting off this 8K tier. He's starting 23rd, and he hasn't been great at Michigan, but the one reason I want to play him this week is because he just lost his ride at JGR. I mean, that's got to make you have some motivation, right? Like, I don't know what else to compare it to, but someone else takes your spot, especially a young guy, you're probably not to be too happy about it. So I think he's actually a pretty good player starting 23rd. He got a little bit of a price drop to 8,800. I forget what it was last week. I think he was 9,000, so a very small price drop. But starting 23rd, he's got top 10 potential, and again, he's going to want to have a really good race here. He's going to want to make it to the playoffs and just stick at the JGR. So I like him as just a motivating play, which it's not stats-based. It's just pretty much head-based, heart-based. I don't know. I'm just rooting for Erik. I like Erik Jones. So he's just more of a gut-feeling play this week. But he's going to definitely want to go out there and perform very well. So I do like Erik Jones. He has 3 top 10s at these types of tracks this season, 4 top 15s. I mean, he's pretty much a locked-again spots, but we also know the risk-reward with Erik Jones. He has top 5 potential, but he also has 40th place potential, or 39th for how many cars there is in the field this week. Then we have Jimmie Johnson, who's pretty much a similar play to Erik Jones every single week. He has not been that great at Michigan recently. Average finish of 21, running position of 21.7, driver rating of 63.1, 1 top 10. I still think he's fine. This season at large ovals, he's been pretty good. He's got 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 7 top 20s. Running position of 14. He should contend for a top 15 here, top 12. The problem is, Jimmie Johnson, like Erik Jones, just tends to get caught up in messes sometimes. And I don't know. It just feels like every single caution, it's usually Erik Jones or Jimmie Johnson. Last week, Matt Kenseth, man, he was every single caution was Matt. Didn't he have 3 cautions in a row? That was crazy. And then he just said screw it and went off the track at that point, which I don't blame him. He could not stay on the track. But Johnson's fine. I prefer Erik Jones for 200 more, but I think he'll be lower owned because he's starting 17th, and I think people are going to play MDB as well. So, not Jones. Johnson's the guy just to play a little bit of. I think he's fine. Then we have MDB. He comes in at 8,400. He is starting 15th, and as usual, I think he's a pretty good play. It is not for as much PDF size starting 15th here, and if you're looking at his recent track history, it's going to look off here, but also remember, and also, can you guys hear my laptop? It sounds like it's going to blow up. I don't know why. Let me just pause this really quick. All right, I don't know. If you guys can hear that, I do apologize. I tried to simmer down the background noise on the microphone, so bear with me. Hopefully it just drowns out my voice. But MDB, I think he's a fine play. He's got that Penske affiliated car now with the Wood Brothers Racing, so he's in the best car he's ever been in. And if you're looking at his numbers this season, much better than what you'd see at Michigan 2020 similar tracks. Average running position of 13.9. He's got 2 top 5s, 5 top 15s, 2 top 10s. And MDB's been kind of getting screwed by late cautions. Like, he's been running really, really well, but a late caution usually screws him out of a cycle or just something bad happens to him. He's been one of those guys that gotten a little bit unlucky. But MDB's got top 10 potential here, 8,400. I think his ownership's going to be decently low, but definitely someone I don't mind being overweight on in tournaments. Willie B, 8,200, starting 19th. I think he's fine. Has he been great at Michigan in 4 races? Not really. Only averaging 21 DraftKings points per race. But, some of these stats are just a little sticky, so sticky, I don't know. That's just the adjective I went with. I'm not sure if that really makes much sense. But average running position of 15.3, 2 top 10s, 5 top 15s at these types of tracks. Starting 19th. I don't mind Byron here. I think he's a fine play for place differential. Kurt Busch, he's starting 10th. He comes in at 8,000, and he's been great at the 2020 large ovals this season. And at this track at Michigan, he's also been very good. So I think he is certainly in play at this price tag. I know he's starting 10th, so he doesn't offer as much upside here, but if you're looking at his track history and 2020 statistics, he should grade out pretty well this week. He's averaging 40 DraftKings points per race here. Average finish inside the top 10. One of the best average running positions. 2 top 5s, 5 top 15s, 3 top 10s. And if you're looking at this season, he's been great. 3 top 5s, 7 top 10s in 9 races. Average finish inside the top 10. Running position of 11.2. One of the better drive ratings at 92.8. I think Kurt Busch is a strong tournament play on this slate, and certainly someone I want to have interest in. And my nose is so itchy. But yeah, I think Kurt Busch is fine. I mean, he should go a little bit lower owned because he's starting 10th. And I forget what he did last week, but I don't think it was that great. And he actually had some ownership. But Kurt's fine to me. Definitely going to be someone I have some ownership to. Dropping down to Matt Kenseth, starting 20th. He looks good from a place differential point of view, but my gosh, he could not keep it together last week. And I don't know, he just doesn't have much upside. He's not the same driver he once was. I mean, he was obviously fantastic, but he didn't have a great track record at Michigan either. Average running position of 15.7, 1 top 15, past 3 race sample size. So it's nothing really you can look at. I'm more interested in the 2020 statistics for Matt Kenseth, and it doesn't get much better. Average finish of 21.4, drive rating of 62.4, 1 top 15, 3 top 20s. Now, I will say Kyle Larson kind of crushed Michigan in this exact car, but 2 different types of drivers. Kenseth's been retired. Can't really put too much stock into it, but I will say Larson was great in the 42 car at Michigan, so he's got that working for him. He's worth maybe a sprinkle starting 20th, and people are going to be off him from what he did last week. I mean, if you were watching the race, caution Matt Kenseth, caution Matt Kenseth, caution Matt Kenseth. So might keep his ownership down, but just still not that interested in him. Alex Bowman, he's starting starting 6th at 7,700. I think he's a fine tournament play. Bowman has not been someone you can trust this season. He's been very inconsistent. Like, he'll have races where he's running very well, but at the end of the race, he'll fade. But I think he's worthy of a tournament play because starting 6th, 7,700, we have dominator potential. And if you're looking at the other 2-mile track this season, Bowman at Auto Club, you definitely wanted him. He scored over 100 DraftKings points. I believe he led over 100 laps. He was the fastest car by far. I know it's a high tire wear track, but he was great. He won the race, and really since that, well, I guess I shouldn't say because he was good at Charlotte earlier this season in Darlington, but it was a track he absolutely crushed at. He's been fine at Michigan in 4 races. Average running position of 12.5. He's got 2 top 10s. If you're looking at his numbers this season, average running position of 9.3 at these types of tracks, but an average finish of 17. So it just goes to show how unlucky he's been. Like, he's been running really well. I think he has the 5th best average running position of all drivers, right behind Blaney, Harvick, Truex and Chase Elliott, I believe, at these types of tracks. So he's been great. He just can't finish a race well. Average driver rating near 100. He has a win, 1 top 5, averaging the second most laps at 36.8. Average fast laps at 20.8. I think he's worthy of a tournament play. I don't hate being overweight on Alex Bowman. Is it going to backfire? Probably, because he just can't put together strong races these days. But I think he's worthy of a dart throw at 7,700, because if he leads laps at 7,700, you're going to be looking real good. So I don't mind Bowman whatsoever. And if you're playing Bowman, you can easily make 3 dominator lineups, because you could go with a guy like Chase Elliott and only 9,300, and then you could easily fit in a guy like Logano as well. So, or even guys like Blaney, Harvick, or Truex. So don't mind Bowman in tournaments. Austin Dillon, 7,500, starting 18th. He has been great at the large ovals this season. He even has a win. Was it a little bit fluky? Sure, but still, he won the race, and he had a strong running that day as well. But if you're looking at his numbers at Michigan, he's been fine. 4 top 15s the past 6 races here. He even has a top 5. And if you're looking at the 2020 stats for these types of tracks, he has an average finish of 12.2, 1 win, 2 top 5s, 7 top 15s. He's been very consistent. So I think Austin Dillon is a fine play. Starting 18th, his price is a little up there, but certainly playable and someone that should contend for a top 15. And if you're looking at average finish, top 12. So do you like Austin Dillon a little bit? Or not a little bit, quite a bit. Clint Boyer, 7,400. He is starting 9th. He is an interesting tournament play because of the price tag. And Michigan, he did win here recently. He has got an average running position of 13.6. Outside of that one win, though, only 2 top 15s and 2 top 20s, so it's not been the greatest track in the world. But if you're looking at his numbers at large ovals this season, 5 top 15s, he hasn't been great, but there's potential there for a top 10, 7,400. I think you should sprinkle in some Clint Boyer, but he's not going to Boyer. Clint Boyer, but he's not someone I think is likely to make the optimal. But it seems like this year, a guy that's not likely to make the optimal ends up making the optimal, because it's just been a crazy year. So, don't hate Boyer. Tyler Reddick is someone you should certainly have interest in for tournaments, because he has crushed large ovals this season. If you're looking at his numbers, because we can't use any Michigan statistics because we don't have any in the Cup Series, but this season at large ovals, Tyler Reddick, very, very good, averaging nearly 50 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 10.8. He's got 2 top 5s. He's finished inside the top 20 each and every single time with 9, averaging 9.3 place differential spots per race, and he has 7 top 15s. I think starting 14th, it's going to keep his ownership down, but we're getting a good price tag on Reddick at 7,200, and the guy's got top 10 potential, so I like Reddick in tournaments. Wouldn't go there in cash games, but I think in tournaments, he's a really good play. Then John Hunter Nemechek, he is 7K. He was running very well last week, starting in a similar spot. Or no, he was starting 36. Yeah, 36. But he was running well, but he ended up, forget what happened. I think he hit the wall at some point, ended up ruining his day. But starting 31st, he's got upside to move up. And if you're looking at his numbers this season, average running position of 22, average finish of 22, 4 top 20s, 1 top 15. I'd prefer Stenhouse starting 32nd, just because I think there's a little bit more upside there. But Nemechek's fine at 7K. It's just I hate paying that much for Nemechek when I can get guys that have higher finishing potential than him. But speaking of guys that have higher finishing potential than him, we have Ricky Stenhouse at 6,900, starting 32nd. I hate playing Stenhouse as much as you guys. It's always a risk-reward with him, but I think he's a fine play here. If you're looking at his numbers at Michigan, he has 1 top 10 here recently, 4 top 20s, and if you're looking at his numbers this season at these types of tracks, he's got 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 5 top 20s, starting 32nd. He's below 7K. Unfortunately, he's one of the best plays on this slate. Just be ready for his car to catch on fire somehow, some way, or something. If something bad can happen to Ricky Stenhouse, it's going to happen. But he did work out last week. He made the optimal, so we'll give him credit for that. Cole Custer, 6,700. He made the optimal last week, and he's been pretty good at these types of tracks this year. And I think he could be a sneaky under-the-radar play, because starting 16th, I don't think a lot of people are going to go there, but he's been running pretty well recently, so ride the hot hand, averaging 35 DraftKings points per race at these types of tracks. Obviously, winning that one race where he scored nearly 70 DraftKings points is going to skew that a little bit, but it still happens, so you can't just ignore it. 7 top 20s and 9 tries, averaging 6 place differential spots per race. I think Custer's got a good chance to crack the top 15, and at 6,700, I think people shy away from that, so I think he is certainly playable. Bubba Wallace, 6,500, starting 24th. So I think he's somewhat in play here, just because he's usually starting in that around 15th. So now that he's starting 24th, I think this makes him playable. If you're looking at his numbers this season, he's got 3 top 20s and 3 top 15s and a top 10, running position of 23.6. I wouldn't hate having a couple Bubba Wallace lineups just because he's finally starting further back than he usually is. He's got 2 top 20s here. I think you can look his way. I mean, it's not my favorite play in the world, but I think he is playable because he hasn't been playable for a long time for me. Chris Buescher, 6,300, starting 22nd. I think he is certainly in play. He's been great at Michigan. He's got 4 top 20s here in 6 races, 2 top 15s, and a top 10. Average finish of 19.3. If you're looking at his numbers this season at these types of tracks, he's got 5 top 20s, 2 top 15s, running position inside the top 20, 6,300, starting 22nd. I definitely think he's a guy you can mix in at the end of your lineups. Ryan Newman, 6,200, starting 13th. He's just a tough play. I mean, if you're looking at his track history at Michigan, it's really good. 5 top 15s the past 6 races here, 2 top 10s and a top 5. Average finish of 12.7. You can sprinkle him in just a very little amount. I prefer the guy starting further back, but he has been really good here. But just so far this season, he's pretty much a 15th and 20th place guy. So I don't have high hopes for Newman, but I like the price tag, and he could stick around where he starts. I don't think it's likely he finishes higher than that, but he could stick around. Michael McDowell, 6,100. He is starting 21st. Probably a guy you can cross off this week. I liked McDowell when he was starting in the 30s, but at starting 21st, I just don't think there's much upside here, and I prefer the 4 guys below him much more than I would Michael McDowell. So I think he's a pretty firm pass for me on this slate. Now, this season, I will give him credit. He's got 4 top 20s and 2 top 15s. Average finish of 21.8, 23.9 average running position, but there's just not a lot of upside here. You could sprinkle him in and hope he gets another top 15, but he's on the outside looking in, making the majority of my lineups. Daniel Suarez, he's 6K, he's starting 37th, and he's been a pretty safe play this season. He is yet to DNF, which I give him credit, and he's pretty much a lock to gain about 10 spots this season at these types of tracks. Average finish of 27.1. His car sucks. He's slow. I feel like I shouldn't even give him the lawnmower status anymore because I'm playing him. I usually just made fun of him for that when I'm not playing him, but I don't know. I feel like he deserves some respect right now. He's cheap enough. He's in play at 37th. He's fine. I have no problem with that. I think he's a safe play. Gains you about 10 spots. If he finishes 27th, that would be 27 points. I have a heat map that shows where everyone would, if they finish, where they would finish, from where they start, how many points they would score. He would score 27 points, which at 6K will take that. He's a very safe play. And he has yet to wreck this season, so. And then going down to the 5K tier, we have quite a few good plays here, 3 in a row, and then after that, I would not play anybody else. But Ryan Preece, 5,800, starting 35th. We were not playing Ryan Preece, we were playing Ryan Preece, and he's just been absolutely murdering our lineups last week. I'm surprised he was only 20% owned last week. I thought he'd be a little bit higher than that, but ended up having a good race at his home track, and I think starting 35th, he would be a pretty good play here. If you're looking at his numbers at Michigan, past 2 races, been very good for him. He has a top 10. He has 1 top 20. He has an average finish of 16th, 40.5 DraftKings points per race. Now, if you're looking at his numbers so far this season, he's wrecked pretty much out of every single race so far. So he's only averaging 10.3 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 30.7. Awful numbers all around, not 1 top 20, but an average running position of 24.9. If he keeps it on the track, starting 35th at 5,800, he's going to be a pretty good play. So I definitely like Ryan Preece. Ty Dillon's 5,700, starting 34th. I'm surprised he's this cheap, but certainly someone you should have on your radar this season at these types of tracks. Average finish of 23.6, 3 top 20s, 2 top 15s. Yeah, he's fine. So he should gain you about 10 spots at 5,700, so I think he is totally in play here. And I'm glad DraftKings is giving us plenty of good cheap options because that does not make it that hard to fit in some high-end studs like Hamlin, Harvick, and those kind of guys. So I'm really liking the way this week sets up, and we have a lot of good guys in the mid-range. So should be a fun week just to mix and match and just hope one of those lineups hit. Then Corey LaJoie starting 36, 5,600. He's fine. Starting as far back as he possibly could. He should gain you around 10 spots, maybe, if you're looking at his numbers this season. Average running position of 26.3, average finish of 23.2, 3 top 20s. He's fine. He's starting 36. All 4 of these guys, Suarez, Preece, Dillon, LaJoie, pretty much going to be mixing those guys up as my back-end guys to fit in my dominator. So, fun week. I think there's a lot of good options. I'm looking forward to the race. We have a double header. And if you guys are wondering how the lineup's going to be set on Sunday, we have the top 20 guys will be inverted. So the thing you could keep in mind is if we have someone that's just not running well and they're like a 10th place car, they might sandbag it a bit to finish around 20th to get that pole position or at least a better position on Sunday. So we'll see. Keep that in mind. I obviously can't project that. That's completely human nature or just a team call. So we'll see. No idea. But I think it's going to be it for the video, guys. I do appreciate you watching. If you made it all the way through, please let me know. I do love hearing the guys that do make it through. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you have a certain time you want to have the live stream, put it in the comments below, and I'll try to see what's the most popular. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at ChrisPennell16, CPen16 on IG. Leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't. Support me on Patreon if you want. You get access to all the content. You get double the content this weekend, so I'll be a busy bee. But I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out MLB if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next video.